Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you to everybody out there, as always, for watching, for listening, for following, for subscribing. Appreciate y'all very much. Today is going to be what has now become our weekly Podbag episode. This is the episode where you, the listener, the viewer, you control the narrative of this show. You control the topics of the show, your questions, your comments that were tweeted at me, emailed, pulled off of our YouTube page. We'll talk about them today. Pretty much, I don't want to say entirely, but almost entirely some Buffalo Bills stuff. That's going to be on today's show. Real quick, before we get into that, tomorrow, not actually tomorrow, well, depending on when you're listening to this, might be tomorrow night, but Thursday night, live from Imperial Series resumes. It's been a hot minute since I've been at Imperial Pizza, but I will be back there live Thursday night, and I'm going to be joined by Channel 7 sports reporter and anchor Brianna Aldridge, and I'll tell you what, I'm really looking forward to this episode, to this chat. I actually, I've gotten to a point now where there's not a lot of people in the Buffalo media, especially in the sports media, that I haven't had on this show at some point. And that's not really a brag. I've just been doing this for so long, 6.5 years, well over 800 episodes. So at some point, I've talked to most people here in the media, but I have never met Brianna. I have never had a conversation with Brianna other than setting this show up. So I am very, very much looking forward to that. I'm impressed with her work. I've been a fan of hers from afar for a while now. And looking forward to that conversation. We'll talk about her life, her career. That'll be streamed live Thursday night, 8 p.m. Again, from Imperial Pizza. Of course, if you miss the stream live, you can catch it anytime on demand Friday in podcast form, of course, on our Talking Buffalo YouTube channel as well. So anyway, that's going to be later in the week. As for this Podbag episode that I'm about to get into here in just a minute, kind of want to put out a little bit of request for everybody out there. Man, I love Bills stuff. I love talking Buffalo Bills, but I'm going to put out a request, a favor to ask of all of you who like to submit comments. Again, whether it's on YouTube or email or tweets. Let's start getting into some more like Buffalo Sabres or other Buffalo sports or just other Buffalo sports or just life stuff as well. I want to be a little bit careful here. I don't want this to get too much into just purely a day-to-day Buffalo Bills sports talk podcast. Just when it gets to that point, I kind of feel like I don't really bring anything different and unique than a lot of the other great Bills content creator shows out there. So I'd like to be a little bit different. So we're not just, that's why it's called Talking Buffalo. I say this all the time. It's not talking Bills, it's talking Buffalo. I just kind of want to cover a larger variety of topics on a day-to-day basis, but especially when we have like this open form Podbag type of episodes. And again, I'm not being naive. I know where my bread is being buttered, and it's Bills talk. They're mostly Bills fans. Bills come before the Sabres. Bills come before, in some cases, friends, family. I get all that. I'm just, it'd be nice to have some questions, some comments to respond to from you guys that isn't only Buffalo Bills. I think I got one today, which is a fun one. We'll get to at the end of this episode. But real quick, as a reminder too, if you want to be a part of our weekly Wednesday Podbag episode, there's a couple ways you could do it. You could either tweet at me at Patrick Moran TB. You can either send an email with your question or comment, talkingbuffalopodcast@gmail.com, or you could just go and leave a comment on any YouTube video that we put out. Every show is also available on the video side on YouTube as well. So when you do that, make sure you hit subscribe as well and that little bell so that you can get notifications when we drop a new episode, which during the week pretty much on the video side is every night at 10 p.m. But anyway, that's the way to be a part of this show going forward. So on that note, let's just kind of jump in here. Not going to be a very long episode, but I got a solid handful of questions that I want to get to, or comments that I think are worth discussing for sure on this show today. And let's start with at Bomb Gears 1120, who says, good job to the Bills teams that made the 4 Super Bowls in a row, but I firmly believe that the Bills of the last 5 years would have won a Super Bowl if not for the Chiefs. All right. Well, first of all, like always, thank you for the comment. I appreciate that. I'm sure by you talking about the Bills teams that made 4 Super Bowls, you're talking about the late 80s, early 90s Buffalo Bills. You firmly believe the Bills would have won a Super Bowl over the last 5 years were it not for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's what you're getting at. Well, sure. I mean, I believe that as well. But that's the shitty thing about sports and having a favorite sports team is sometimes fate doesn't allow things to happen. You know, sometimes things just aren't meant to be. You know, I am a huge, huge New York Knicks fan. And look, they probably win an NBA title. Maybe they win maybe 2 titles were it not for Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls just being unstoppable in those early to mid 90s. You know, the Knicks were good year after year. In fact, I've used comparisons on the show before to potentially maybe the Bills are the New York Knicks right now and the Kansas City Chiefs are the Chicago Bulls. A great team, great regular seasons, some playoff success, and then they run into the Chicago Bulls and the Knicks could never get over that hump. To this point right now, it's kind of what it's been like with the Buffalo Bills, right? And with the Knicks, as it turns out, the Knicks made 1 NBA final during that entire era, and that was a non-Michael Jordan year when he tried to play baseball. The Knicks got to the NBA finals and lost to the Houston Rockets. And I'm sure there's a lot of Bills fans out there right now that would say, please just give me the 1 Super Bowl. So, by the way, sub question for all you right now. If you're listening to this, you're watching this. If I were to tell you today that the height of the Bills run right now would be getting to a Super Bowl with this current group, this era of Bills football, getting to 1 Super Bowl, but not winning it. You get to the Super Bowl and you lose to the Eagles, the Niners, the Lions, whoever it may be. And maybe not this year, but could be this year, the next year, 2-3 years from now. When it's all said and done, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills get to 1 Super Bowl, but they don't win it. How much, if at all, of a failure would that be to you personally? Would you take 1 year of the Bills running the table in the AFC playoffs, getting to a Super Bowl, I'm sure the feelings of euphoria that would be going on for those 2 weeks before the game, but ultimately you lose the game. But you got to the Super Bowl. That is an alternative. But you could also say if you say no, you know, maybe the Bills win a couple Super Bowls. Or maybe the Bills never, to the point of the commenter, they never get past the Chiefs and they never even get to a Super Bowl. So would you take 1 Super Bowl with the loss? If you're guaranteed that versus the unknown, would you take that? I think that's a pretty good answer. Now, me personally, off the top of my head, I literally just thought of this, by the way. I probably would not take that. I would take my chances that at some point the Bills can get to maybe multiple Super Bowls, but even if they only get to 1, they actually can win the game. But again, maybe they don't get anything. They don't win anything. So it is possible. I don't know. But I think that's a pretty good question. But anyway, to the point. Like I said, the Knicks got to 1 Super Bowl. I'm sorry, 1 NBA Finals. Maybe the Bills will get to 1 Super Bowl. Mahomes gets hurt, or they just have a down year, or the Bills just finally get over the hump and they beat them, which is certainly possible. See, that's the thing. You know, like with the Bulls, Knicks, and this is where I think the comparison goes a little bit wrong, because I don't think the Knicks were ever as good as the Bulls. The Knicks were really good, but they were never as good as the Bulls. I truly, in my heart, and this is not a homer take, I truly feel the Bills have been every bit as good as the Kansas City Chiefs for the last 3 years. The difference is the Bills have, for a lack of better term, kind of gagged twice in the last 3 years a playoff game against the Chiefs where they should have won the game. I mean, you got 13 seconds, no more explanation needed. And then last year, I thought that game was the Bills to win. The Bills were winning a lot of that game. The Bills should have won that game last year. You get past the Chiefs, you probably get to the Super Bowl, right? So, look, it's a fair point. It's a fair comment. It's a fair thing to bring up that, the Bills would have won a Super Bowl were it not for the Chiefs, but the Chiefs ain't going nowhere. So you're going to have to figure it out. If you want to get to Super Bowl, you want to win, you're going to have to find a way to get past the Chiefs. Anyway, all right, let's continue here. Will says, what Bills player is your most likely to take a big leap for 2024? This is a good question. I think Dalton Kincaid kind of seems like an obvious choice. He's going into year 2. He's a first-round pick. Pretty big part of your offense last year as a rookie, and as the season went on, it kind of became more important. You lose, your top 2 receivers. You got to figure he's going to be a central part of this offense for sure. But, I mean, if I want to keep in line with the spirit of the question, you're saying most likely to take a big leap for 2024. I look at Dalton Kincaid last year as a rookie, and he had 73 catches, 673 yards last year as a rookie. I guess the question should be, how much better realistically do you think Dalton Kincaid is going to be this year in 2024, his sophomore campaign? 73 for 673 last year. I mean, if he has 80 to 85 catches for 800 yards, that's a hell of a year. But is that really a significant leap compared to what he already did last year? Setting the bar pretty high? Possible. I mean, this guy has the ability to be a 90-catch, 1,000-yard tight end, I think. Right? Now, if we're going to put up those numbers, then I would say Dalton Kincaid. But truth be told, with the balance that this offense might have, not sure he's going to put up those numbers. So I expect growth from Dalton Kincaid. But to say a leap, I can't go with him. Now, that said, the guy I'm going to go with, and I know we talked about him. In fact, we had an episode last week called Opportunity Knocks for Khalil Shakir. And that's who I'm going to go with to answer this question. It's going to be Khalil Shakir. Because I think, personally, this is my personal opinion, I think Khalil Shakir potentially could become one of the better, maybe even best case, one of the best pure slot receivers in this league this coming season. I mean, I'm talking like vintage Cole Beasley kind of player, but with more big play potential. Cole Beasley in his prime with the Bills, the Cowboys before that, but here we're talking about the Bills. He was a rock. Dude got open. Dude caught the ball. Dude moved the chains. The dude had some big catches. Potentially, I see that with Khalil Shakir. All what I just said, but he's also the kind of guy who can make somebody miss and take it to the house for a 50, 60-yard touchdown. We saw a couple real big plays from him last year. And speaking of last year, again, Dalton Kincaid had some pretty sexy-ass numbers last year as a rookie. So I don't know how much more he's going to elevate his game this year. But you look at Khalil Shakir last year, 39 catches. I think he had like 600-some yards. I don't have the stats actually in front of me right now. I know he had 39 catches. I think it was like 611 yards, 2 touchdowns last year. Useful numbers, productive, and I know he did a lot in the back half of the season. Didn't really see the ball. Didn't really get much opportunity early on. But, again, 39 for 611, 2 touchdowns. It's good. It's not great. And I look at Khalil Shakir right now, and I'm like, talking about a guy who could make a leap. Could be great. Maybe it's Khalil Shakir. I'll tell you what, and again, I'm kind of posing this question to all you out there. Do you see Khalil Shakir as a guy who can push 75 to 80 catches this season? A guy who could land somewhere between 900 and 1,000 yards, even receiving, say 7 touchdowns? Do you see that? Because I do. I see with opportunity, with the confidence of his quarterback, having a big role in this offense, whether it's on the slot, whether it's on the boundary. I'm sure it'll be a combination of both. But in an offense where there's no alpha lion anymore, ain't nobody getting 160 targets this year. I see Khalil Shakir as a 75 to 80 catch guy. I see Khalil Shakir as a guy who 900 to 1,000 yards receiving. I see Khalil Shakir as a guy, maybe 7 tutties. I see it. I see it for sure. So anyway, that is definitely my answer. Lots of candidates. And again, Kincaid is the one where you're really tempted to say that. But for me, I'm going to go with our boy Khalil Shakir. So anyway, that's my pick. Come back, take a quick break. Come back, got a handful more of, again, mostly Bills related questions, but I do got a fun one as well. Be right back. All right, I am back with our weekly Podbag episode. This is the episode where your questions and your comments control the narrative and the topics of this show. Let's continue here. Mike S. says, do you agree with ESPN's Dan Orlovsky that too many people are sleeping on the Bills offense? As these questions go on, I kind of caught myself a little bit last week. I think I was talking to Anthony Marino on his show, and I said, Anthony, am I becoming a Bills homer? Am I? Because it seems more and more and more, a lot of what I got to say about the Bills is positive, where maybe in the beginning of the offseason, maybe because of the way things were happening, all these guys getting cut, thinking they were going to do something else at wide receiver than ultimately what they did. Maybe I had some temporary frustration for sure with this team, but as the dust is settled, I'm just being honest, man. I really like the direction and I like the makeup right now of this football team. To answer the question, yes, I do think there's a lot of people sleeping on the Bills offense, because to sleep on them means there's a lot of people out there who don't think this offense is going to be very good. And the majority of people who don't think this Bills offense is going to be very good this year are people who are thinking of Stefon Diggs, and to a lesser extent Gabe Davis, but mainly Stefon. And the 100+ catches he had for 4 straight years and well over 1,000 yards each year, and now he's gone. So I get it. You lost your first receiver, you lost your second receiver, and they haven't had one quote-unquote big addition, singular big addition to the offense to make up for it. They didn't trade Stefon Diggs and then go trade for Brandon Ayuk. So I think there are a lot of people sleeping on the Bills offense. And I think the reason why you shouldn't do that is because, and by the way, if you say they're sleeping on the offense, that means you think the offense is going to be better than most people think. If you don't think you're sleeping on it, that means you agree with the critics who don't think this offense is, quite frankly, going to be very good. And I'm not of that mindset. And the reason why I'm of that mindset is simple, man. It's the guy we take for granted so much and we don't talk about enough on this show, and I'm sure a lot of others that much. And that's Josh Allen. Too many people are looking at the receivers and not much else, and they're forgetting about who the quarterback of the football team is. Look, Josh Allen is going to be a top 5 quarterback, regardless of who his weapons are. And even without Gabe Davis, and even without Stefon Diggs, there's still plenty of capable guys on this football team. I just spent a good 5 minutes talking about Khalil Shakir. I think he's on the come up. We talked about Dalton Kincaid, a first-round pick. They traded up in the first round last year, and he delivered 73 catches as a rookie tight end. You don't think he's going to get better? Curtis Samuel, he's not nothing. He might not be T. Higgins. He might not be DK Metcalf or one of these other guys that the Bills, a lot of fans hoped that the Bills would land, whether it was free agent, whether it was trade. But Curtis Samuel is a very capable player, a player who played behind a complete shit job quarterback the last couple of years, who had his best year in 2020 when Joe Brady was his offensive coordinator in Carolina. I think Curtis Samuel has a nice role carved out for this football team. And then they used their first pick, second round overall, 33rd overall on a receiver, Keon Coleman. He's going to come in. He's going to play. How much? We'll see. What's his effect going to be as a rookie? We'll see. But they got some capable guys. And that's not even to mention somebody like Dawson Knox. Look, Dawson Knox sucked last year, but he's also hurt. He's went through a lot of shit injury-wise, off the field, losing his brother over the past couple of years. This is a guy who could play football. There's a reason he's not a bum. He's not a scrub. He got a big contract, maybe too big of a contract, but he got a nice contract because he earned it. This is a guy who back-to-back years had nearly 50 catches, like over 500 yards, 2 different seasons. He's going to make some plays. He's not going to have, 4 catches for 80 yards every game, but he'll make some impact plays. He's a pretty good player. MVS is a guy who the Bills just signed, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. We talked about him a little bit previously on the show. Actually talked about him a lot. He may be somebody that, you look back on January, February, and you're like, you know what? That was a good late offseason signing. Again, not a guy who's going to catch 75 passes for 900 yards and 9 touchdowns, but he's a deep threat. He'll keep the defense honest. He'll infuriate you because he's going to drop a couple passes, but he can make some plays, and he turns up in the playoffs, and that means a lot. To me, it means a lot, especially with so many Bills star players who just seem to play their worst in the playoffs. So anyway, they got weapons, man. They really do. And that's not even counting the running game. By the way, James Cook, 4th in the NFL in rushing. Ray Davis, a 4th-round rookie that I like a lot. I think he's going to have a nice role cut out for him on this football team. And then you got Josh being able to run the football. Whether it's scrambling for first downs, running for touchdowns, push plays. You get near the end zone, he's automatic. Get 4th and 1, 3rd and inches, whatever it may be. He's become automatic with that. So, yeah, I do think not Bills. I think a lot of fans, a lot of analysts out there, especially nationally, are sleeping on the Bills offense. Might not look as great on paper because you're not top heavy with Stefon and Gabe, but man, there's plenty of talent on this offense. And don't forget who the quarterback is. Don't do that. All right. At Gene H3127, Pat, stop getting butthurt and defensive over Diggs. He was good 3 years and was nothing but a crybaby diva, bitch disease on this team. All right. Well, as always, thanks for the comment. You were certainly entitled to your opinion. I don't think I'm butthurt over Stefon Diggs. I don't think I'm defensive over Stefon Diggs. I never even hated the trade. And I said it when it happened on April 3rd. I'm like, okay, I get what they're doing. 2nd round pick next year. My beef was what I was upset about, and I'm still, quite frankly, not all that happy about even today, is I thought a bigger move was coming after they traded Stefon. Like when they traded Stefon Diggs and they got a 2nd round pick next year, I'm like, okay, I see what they're doing. They're clearing the path to add somebody. Whether it's moving up in the 1st round for a receiver, which, by the way, now that the draft is come and gone, hindsight, kind of glad they didn't because I like where they're going. But sure, Brandon Ayuk, I keep throwing that name out there. T. Higgins, I thought something else was coming. So when nothing came, and it kind of culminated the day they signed Chase Claypool, who I really took it out on that day, I was frustrated. No question about it. I'm not going to deny that. But as time went, when it happened then and time went on since, I never hated the trade. I understand what the philosophy with Joe Brady and Sean McDermott, what it is right now. I'm good with this offense. As for the drama, with the Diggs drama, look, outwardly, this may be all on Stefon Diggs. I mean, it's pretty apparent. You could tell by his Twitter. He wasn't happy. He wanted out. If you dig in hard enough, you'll probably find some people who will tell you that he flat out asked for a trade. Brandon Beane never denied it when he was asked about it right after it happened. So I get it. One happy, wanted out, but you know what? Drama, emotions, feelings, usually it's kind of like a two-way street. And I feel like above all else, Stefon is like an ultimate competitor, man. He wanted to win. And if he was mad at his coaches, he was mad at his quarterback, doesn't he, on some levels, kind of have a right to be? Because, I mean, if you go to 2021, they're primed for a Super Bowl that year. And Sean McDermott, and let's be clear about this, Sean McDermott alone blew the Kansas City Chiefs playoff game. He blew it. 13 seconds is on Sean McDermott. It's not on Leslie Frazier. It's not on Tyler Bass. It's not on any player. It's on Sean McDermott. You're the head coach of a football team and you take a lead with 13 seconds left and you make 3 critical mistakes between the kickoff and 2 defensive setups after calling 2 timeouts to make sure this is what you wanted. That's on you and nobody else. So he's sitting there stewing because the head coach blew his chance to go to the Super Bowl one year. And then you go to the next year in the playoffs. You're at home against Cincinnati. And let's call it what it is. Josh Allen was horrific in that AFC divisional playoff loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. He was bad. Many reports have come out about his lack of focus that week, preparation, bad reads during games, bad decisions with the football, guys who were open, who he didn't look at. It was a terrible game for Josh Allen, and we're not going to dive into any off-field personal shit that may or may not have been going on with him that week. None of our business. But the one thing I think even the most hardened or arduous Josh Allen fans would agree on is that he kind of sucked that game. He was terrible. So let's not sit there and act like Stefon Diggs apparently was mad over nothing. He was mad just to be mad. Because that I don't buy. Again, one last time. Go with the trade. Your boy's starting to get old. Over the hill? Maybe, probably not. But I think peak Stefon Diggs is gone. And the dissension was coming. And there's a school of thought to get rid of a player 1 year too early as opposed to 1 year too late. And I'm sure, look, man, his attitude surely had something to do with that. If you're not going to be an elite player or a world-class receiver, if you're not one of the top 5 to 10 receivers in the NFL, are we going to want to put up with all the extra bullshit that comes with it? Probably not. So again, I don't blame Brandon Beane for trading him. Plus, the shift towards offense of being more unpredictable, more balanced instead of having an alpha that you're going to feed the football to no matter what. I get all that. But all I'm saying is I'm not going to sit there and act like only Stefon Diggs is to blame for the divorce between the Bills and Stefon, because they should have went to at least one Super Bowl, maybe more. And if that happens and you win, maybe your boy's just happier. Simple as that. A couple more here. At Sean W. Kula 11B. I'm not paying Spencer Brown $11 million after 1 year of good play. With an injury history, once he does it consecutive years, I'll pay him. All right, fair point. This is, I'm sure, is in response. This was on the YouTube video side, so I saw the comment there. This is in response to a show we actually did just yesterday. Anthony Marino and myself talking about some specific players. Actually, it was last week, and we're talking about players to sleep on in summer, like Spencer Brown came up. And Anthony talked about him potentially getting a contract. He's going into his 4th year right now, and he played really good last year. And from Brandon Beane's perspective, it's all about projections and calculations. I mean, you see good to great offensive tackles, what they're getting paid nowadays. It's insane. It's insane. And You could pay Spencer Brown like maybe before camp or during training camp, maybe before the season starts, and it's going to seem like a lot. Or you can hold off and decide to not give him an extension. And if he goes out and he plays in 2024, like he did in 2023, the boy's going to be getting probably 16, $19 million, somewhere in that range next year when he's a unrestricted free agent. So it's a gamble for Brandon Beane. It's a gamble if you want to pay him now. Is he the player that you saw last year, or was last year an anomaly? Because I thought he was really, really good last year. Or do you take a chance that, you don't want to pay him now, but if you don't, and he goes out and he plays great, then you might lose him. Then you got a big hole to fill because someone else paid him 18 to 20 million when you could have had him a year before for maybe 10 to 12 and you decided not to. So it's a big decision for Brandon Beane in this front office. Part of the reason why you cleared the deck with salary cap space, I feel like this season, is for guys like Spencer Brown. Now, I'm not saying give him a monster deal right now. You're right. I mean, it's just been one good season, but it has to be on the table, man. You have to, and this is important, you got to have some stability for Josh Allen on this offensive line. They had I thought was their best offensive line last year. They got rid of Mitch Morse. So if you count Connor McGovern going to center and then you got David Edwards playing guard, that's 2 of your 5 positions. You got somebody new playing there. If you count Connor McGovern going to center as a new player, a new position, I don't want to have to replace 1-2 guys on the offensive line every year. You want some stability for your quarterback. So if you got the cap room and you're building and getting rid of the old guys to be able to lock up more of your young guys long term, I would think having a pretty rock solid right tackle in the mix for the next 3 to 5 years would probably be a priority. Call me stats 91. Who's an offseason acquisition that will probably be gone before we even get to know him? Good. That's a good question. I'm going to go Casey Toohill. Few reasons. Number one is contract. I mean, contracts say a lot about players that make the roster and who don't. Not all the time. I mean, we'll never forget O.J. Howard getting $2.5 million guaranteed and getting cut at camp. So I'm not saying it's impossible if you have guaranteed money that you're going to make you're not 100% locked to make the roster, but your odds dramatically improve. Casey Toohill ain't got no bonus. Got like $15,000 bonus. That's it. And you look at defensive end, Von Miller, AJ Epinesa, Groot. Those 3 are locks. Dwayne Smoot, his contract, the guaranteed money he just got. Again, is he 100% locked? No, I'm not going to say 100%. If he shows up at camp and he's a disaster, he looks horrible, him getting cuts in play. But if that's not the case, he's making this roster. So there's your 4. They used a 5th round pick on Javon Solomon, a really good edge pass rusher who's raw, and he's got to have a lot to learn. He's going to take some time to develop at the NFL level. But the Bills knew that, and they still took a 5th round pick on him, which tells me they plan on keeping him on this roster, even if he's a borderline, redshirt guy who's inactive for a lot of the year. So I think he's making it. So that's 5. So if you're even keeping 6, it comes down to Casey Toohill and probably Kingsley Jonathan, who personally I'm kind of a fan of. I think he's done some things in limited opportunities. So, I mean, no lock, but yeah, if there's somebody, at least somebody off the top of my head I could think of who the Bills have went out and signed, of course, Chase Claypool would be low-hanging fruit. But again, you already know what I feel about Chase Claypool, so I don't really need to mention him again. So I'm going to go with Casey Toohill with that. At 804 Bills fan, are there actually any good Bills camp battles to watch this summer? Yeah, there's a few. And look, I'm not going to dive into them today. We're getting a little bit long in the tooth with this episode as it is. And I want to save some of these for more extended conversations on future episodes, which we'll have leading up to in during training camp, of course. So we'll talk about those more a bit down the road. But look, off the top of my head, man, Taylor Rapp, Cole Bishop, if there's one training camp battle where you might see a battle for who's going to actually start, that probably is going to be it. I don't think it's a lock that Taylor Rapp is going to start this year at strong safety. If Cole Bishop looks really good early on, he may have something to say about that. So that's one. Backup linebacker. Talk about Nick Morrow, Dalen Spector, Deion Jones, probably for like 2 jobs between the 3. That'll be interesting. And then I mentioned Chase Claypool. Justin Shorter. If the Bills, assuming they're going to keep 6 receivers, somebody might come out of nowhere, step up. Don't completely discount guys like Shavers or Andy Isabella. But, you got Coleman, Samuel, Shakir, Matt Collins. Those 4 are locked in. MBS, short of being a disaster, there's your 5th. So Chase Claypool, Justin Shorter, both of whom will have to make this team largely because of special teams. That could be an interesting battle worth watching as well. 3 more here. At Cliffy Ball 436. Is Frank Gore Jr. going to make the Bills roster? Quickly here now. Bills ain't keeping 4 tailbacks. I mean, if there's an injury, maybe he comes into play. But as things stand right now, no. You got James Cook, you got Davis, you got Ty Johnson. Bills are set there at halfback. Might be a fun training camp story. You always get those camp darlings every year who look really good. Ultimately, don't make the roster. Probably going to be the destiny as things stand right now for Gore. At page 94, give me an entirely too early Super Bowl prediction that isn't necessarily shocking, but one that would make most people take a second look. All right, well, again, you can't say the Chiefs, you can't say the 49ers, you can't say the Eagles. I'm going with Houston in the AFC, Green Bay in the NFC. That would be not a stunner because both teams are expected to be in the mix, be really good. But I don't think anybody's really expecting Houston and Green Bay to both make the Super Bowl. Jordan Love's for real, man. Green Bay's good. Green Bay's really good. We already know what Houston can be. Plus, they had Stefon Diggs. They had Joe Mixon, that had offense. Weapons galore. And they got some really good players on defense, too, man. Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, they picked up. They got Stingley. So there are a lot of weapons with the Houston Texans. It would not be stunning, but a little surprising if they were to emerge as the team and not the Buffalo Bills or the Cincinnati Bengals, who ultimately would knock off the Chiefs and stop them from being a 3-peat champion. All right, last question here. Brian Kaloof says, saw your Mount Rushmore of Wings show and article, and I agree with 3 of them. Doesn't say which one he doesn't agree with, by the way. But he says, but anyway, give me a Mount Rushmore of favorite pizza places. All right, that's fun, but I got to preface this, okay? I love pizza, but I am not an adventurous pizza guy. Like with wings, I've been to 90-some places, and I know some of them are probably not going to be good, but I still have them anyway. Pizza, I kind of have like my 10 to 15 places where they're the only places I'm interested in going to. And I know that for a lot of people, these probably won't be on their list. I'm sure just like with wings, this is something that's subjective and varied. But for me personally, Bella Pizza, 100% on my Mount Rushmore. And by the way, I'm not ranking these 1 through 4. You said 4 for Mount Rushmore. So I'm picking 4, sort of. I'm going to cheat a little bit. But Bella Pizza is definitely one. I love Bella Pizza. And I know they got 3 locations. I'm talking about specifically the Lackawanna location, man. I've been eating the pizza at least faithfully for probably the last 15 years. I love that place. Imperial Pizza is definitely on my Mount Rushmore. That sauce is just a little bit sweeter. It's more unique compared to all the other like great, well-known, reputable pizza places in Buffalo. Big, thicker slice. Love that sauce. There's just something unique about it. So Bella's an easy choice for me. Imperial Pizza is definitely an easy choice for me. By the way, not just because I know people are like, oh, you do a show there. Yeah, I do a show there. They do sponsor the show from time to time. I'm not going to sit there and try to lie about that. But it does not take away from the fact that Imperial Pizza is the freaking bomb. Love that place. Third, it gets a little bit harder here, but I got to go with where I grew up around, and that was Lenova Pizzeria. I mean, the wings are the bomb. The barbecue wings are among the best you'll get anywhere. I just know that pizza so well. I grew up with that pizza. That was the pizza, 50% of the time that I always had. And I've always loved Lenova Pizza. And I know some people have some crazy strong opinions about Lenova Pizza. They love it. It's the best, or they hate it. Kind of like one of those, kind of like the wing nuts of pizza. And what I mean by that is ain't no middle ground with wing nuts. Like nobody says wing nuts is just all right. People say wing nuts is the best or one of the best, or wing nuts is overrated as hell and it's shit. It's like one or the other with wing nuts. I kind of feel like Lenova's is the same way. Nobody's just like, it's all right. You either love it or you don't. And I love it. So Lenova's, and then flip a coin because I love Macy's. I love Macy's, although they get a little too fancy with their pizzas, man. I'm just talking cheese and pepperoni pizza, man. That's what I love. Sometimes even just cheese if I'm in the mood. And I don't want all the grease and pepperonis. But it's either Macy's or I'm going to tell you what, a sleeper pick, Carbone's. Carbone's in the First Ward on South Park Avenue is the bomb. So I'll flip a coin there. Honorable mention, Bocce Club. I love them. Got to say real quick, too, if you would have asked me this a month ago, Mr. Pizza would have been on my list. Mr. Pizza was my singular favorite pizza growing up on the West Side in the world. Love, 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 love Mr. Pizza. Fell off a little bit as I got older. Didn't have it for years. I've had it periodically throughout the years, every couple of years. And it's kind of fallen off, but it's still been good. But I had it last week. There was Elmwood Porch Fest going on. We drove through, stopped, picked up the pizza, took it home. It was shit. It was garbage. I couldn't believe it. It was so disappointing to me. So I think that's out now. And I'll end this with an unpopular opinion because I know a lot of people are probably screaming Picasso's. Picasso's ain't even a top 20 for me. I think that place is just straight up overrated. Sorry for the Picasso fans out there. I think it's bland, expensive, and just overrated as hell. Anyway, I would love to hear your pizza takes on them. What are your Mount Rushmore pizza? And like I said, for future episodes, follow us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Leave a comment, because if you leave a comment, I will pluck them. I will use them on this show. Or again, you can tweet at me at Patrick Moran TV or email Talking Buffalo Podcast at gmail.com. And again, one more time, live Thursday night, Imperial Pizza. Brianna Aldridge, Channel 7, will be with me live. I have another show tomorrow. So until then, talk to you later.